Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here, and let's talk a little bit about how you could take your productions to the next level using your DI tracks. Let's discuss. So before we dive into today's tutorial, I just want to let you know that if you're looking to improve the quality of your productions and mixes, I don't care if you're using an analog console, tape, outboard gear, Reaper, stock plugins, overpriced plugins, it doesn't matter. What it all comes down to in the real world is how well you understand basic EQ and compression. And because of this, I'm offering you direct access right now for absolutely free to my crisp and clear heavy mix formula. The heavy mix formula is comprised of three primary components: a mixing cheat sheet that contains all of my EQ and compression starting points whenever I start a mix. Within the PDF guide, there are clickable links to private mixing tutorials where I break down all of the main components for all of the main instruments within a heavy production, and each private tutorial comes with a multi-track download so you can have access to the exact same raw multi-track that I'm using in the lesson. Again, you could have direct access to the heavy mix formula for absolutely free. There's a link below in this video's description. Now, before I dive into the techniques and the tutorial in today's video, I just want to let you know that if you're not currently recording clean DIs with your heavy guitar tracks, you are missing out and potentially making your life a lot harder than it needs to be. Recording clean DIs is so important for multiple reasons. Number one, it's a safety net so you could always change your guitar tone later, because as we all know, recording great sounding heavy guitar tone can sometimes be challenging, and also it helps with editing. Let me just show you what I mean. If you look at my guitar tracks here, these are my 5150 tracks and they look like a giant blob. Good luck editing that. But underneath them are the DIs of the exact same performances. So just to be super clear here, here's my DI track on the left side. Here's my amp on the left side. They are the exact same performance. This is just a clean version of the heavy tone. So when I recorded these guitars, they were split. So I'm capturing both the amp and the clean DI. And when it comes to editing, it makes editing guitars so much easier because, again, you could visually see the actual transient information within your DAW. This is something I learned in my internship, and I've been doing it ever since, and it's how the pros work, especially when working with heavy music within heavy productions. But there's an amazing byproduct of recording clean DIs that most people don't talk about, and that's all of the different production things that you could do with clean DI tracks within your production after the song has been recorded. Now, one trap that we all get caught up in, especially when starting out, is recording way too many tracks. And I find this to be especially true when it comes to guitar players, especially when you're recording at home and you have no deadline and no set direction. You'll just record one guitar layer, another guitar layer, a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, tons of leads, tons of overdubs, hoping to make your guitars sound bigger when in reality, you're just creating a mess for yourself. Now, the sample that I have here is a song that I just wrapped up mixing with members of the Frightbox Mix Script over the weekend. And the thing that's unique about it is that there are multiple guitar layers, but there aren't a lot of guitar performances. In other words, I made use in the mix of the clean guitar DIs alongside the original amp tones of the same performances. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the audio back and I'm gonna dive deep and explain to you how I made use of the clean DIs and how you can do the same within your own productions to add excitement and life and depth to your guitar mixes without having to record a bunch of unnecessary layers. Let's check out the sample. So before I dive into the nitty gritty on how I made use of the DI tracks, I want to be ultra clear just in case you don't fully understand the concept. Here's my main rhythm guitar tone. Even though that's the main tone being used in the production, I have these clean DIs that I recorded at the source of just the guitar itself, and it sounds like this. Obviously, it sounds really funny when you hear riffs that are meant to be played through distortion, clean like that. But again, these DIs are a safety net, and you could do a whole lot with them within the mix. So, example number 1. We have a verse here. It has a lot of kind of like, I don't want to say intricate riffing, but interesting riffing, where I wanted to bring out certain elements of the riff and highlight certain elements of the riff without having to go in and record an additional guitar layer and make things messy. Let's take a listen to the verse really quickly.
So listen, baby, I'm shooting it from the hip. Think twice. You run your
Okay, so right here, there's this part of the riff that has this kind of like classical feel, right? If you hear the distorted version of it, I wanted to bring just that little section out of the production, again, without having to record another guitar layer, right? So what I did here, super simple, because I had the clean DIs, I simply took that section of the clean DIs, copy them to a stereo track within my DAW, and you could do this in any DAW, Cubase, Studio One, Reaper, it doesn't matter. All you're doing is taking audio, copying it over to a new track, and treating that track in a unique fashion to help blend in some excitement for only that section of the riff. So that extra stereo track here of only that element of the clean DI sounds like this. Again, it sounds funny on its own, but it's kind of a dirty tone that highlights the main heavy tone only for that quick little section. So it's a production hack. And the way I'm creating this is super simple. The tone itself really doesn't matter. It's the overarching idea. But just to show you, I have an overdrive pedal being fed into an amp sim, stock amp sim in my DAW, filtering out a lot of the low end and top end, pulling out some of the mids or lower mids, compressing it, and finally I'm delaying the DI by 20 milliseconds just to get me out of any trouble with phase, because remember, these DIs are literally the exact same performance from my amp tracks. This is not a layer that was recorded on top of my main amp tracks. It's the same exact performance, the clean DI just copied over to a track, and it's being used in the production just to highlight that section of the riff. So if I solo my guitars, the heavy guitars, with that little additional track, that highlight track as I like to call it, it sounds like this. So in context of the mix, now the entire pre-chorus has some really busy riffage happening, and I wanted the riff to come across super clear. So all I did was the exact same thing. I blended in a cleanish / overdriven tone with the main heavy guitar track, and it sounds like this. Okay, and finally, one of my favorite elements of this particular production is the chorus. And what I did was take the main chorus riff. Again, I didn't go in there and record 5,000 guitar layers on top of the chorus. I took the left and right rhythm guitar DIs, copied them over to their own track, and added some chorus, right? So it sounds like this. Filtered out the low end, top end, fed it through an amp sim, compressed it, delayed it by 20 milliseconds to get me out of any issues with phase. And it makes the chorus sound way more exciting and way more clean. Check it out. I love it. Took the chorus, didn't have to add any additional unnecessary layers that are just gonna cloud up the rest of the mix, because the other thing to remember is a mix like this has a lot of other things going on. You have vocal layers, keyboard layers, tons of other stuff. I'd rather take the guitar riffs that are already well-produced, tight, and clear, and just add extra depth to them with the performance that already exists. Now, I'm not saying to never add layers or never harmonize things or never experiment with recording additional tracks, but this is something important to keep in mind. A lot of times in production, less is more, and you're better off working with fewer tracks, especially when it comes to the performance, and just getting that right and making the most out of what already exists. So I'm curious to know, is this a technique that you're currently using within your own productions? And more importantly, are you recording clean DIs in the first place? Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you've been up to and what your opinion is. And again, if you're looking to improve the sound of your productions, you could have instant access to my crisp and clear heavy mix formula. You get an EQ and compression mixing cheat sheet, private tutorials, and a multi-track download that accompanies each tutorial so you could practice mixing along with me. The heavy mix formula is absolutely free right now, and you could have instant access by clicking the link below in this video's description. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. If you're interested in some Frightbox swag, I've got t-shirts, mugs, and a ton of other cool stuff on the way. There's a link below to the Frightbox merch store in this video's description. And until next time, record those DIs.